This is a map of Antarctica, the southernmost part of planet Earth, home to the South Pole. This cold, remote piece of land covered with ice is the fifth largest continent, with a surface area of 14,200,000 square kilometers. It's almost twice as big as Australia. Dominated by the Antarctic ice sheet, it is a polar desert without a native population. The average thickness of the ice covering Antarctica is 1.9 kilometers, and hidden in the vastness of this endless, frozen piece of land are terrifying secrets. Over the years, exploratory expeditions have discovered the unthinkable in this continent of extremes. The weather here is cold, windy, and dry year-round. Despite being the most recently discovered continent, Antarctica has preserved vibrant and almost alien life forms under its thick sheet of ice for millions of years. The melting ice and human contact has revealed astonishing features in this enigmatic part of our planet, from unique microorganisms alien to the rest of the world to strange glaciers that sing. All sorts of unsettling things have been discovered in Antarctica. And today we'll introduce you to some of the scariest and most formidable things humanity has found in the Antarctic ice, so make sure you watch till the end. 1. A world hidden 1,600 feet below the surface. Deep below the icy sheet of Antarctica is an extraordinary ecosystem that escaped the radar for too long. The thought of life existing 1,600 feet under the ice is just unfathomable, but like many other instances, Antarctica has left us all awestruck. This hidden world, tucked away in a dark, jagged cavern, was recently discovered by researchers. The subterranean habitat is home to swarms of tiny shrimp-like creatures. It is located beneath the Larsen Ice Shelf, an enormous sheet of floating ice connected to the eastern coast of the Antarctic Peninsula. Near the junction of this massive ice shelf and land was an unusual groove. Researchers noticed this groove in satellite photos and realized that it was a subsurface river. With the help of a powerful hot water hose, they drilled about 500 feet below the surface of the ice and finally reached the chamber hiding under the ground. A camera was sent down the tunnel to see what was inside, and to their surprise, thousands of tiny, blurry flecks in the water made it impossible to clearly observe the surroundings. At first, the team thought their equipment was malfunctioning, but soon they realized that it wasn't the hardware, it was nature. The lens of their camera was swarmed by incredibly small crustaceans called amphipods. The researchers were not prepared for this even in their wildest imaginations. They hadn't considered the possibility of finding life this far below the surface. A physical oceanographer at the National Institute of Water and Atmospheric Research, Auckland, stated that the presence of these animals swimming around 1,600 feet below the surface clearly indicates that a remarkable ecosystem process is underway. According to him, the entire team was overjoyed by this breakthrough. Experts have suspected the presence of a huge network of rivers, estuaries, and lakes under Antarctica, but studying the features of this continent isn't an easy job. The team explained that the cavern did not look anything like they had predicted. The roof of the chamber was uneven with many steep undulations. They also realized that the underground water column was split into 5 distinct layers, with water in each layer flowing in a different direction. Fortunately, the team reached the buried river only a few days before the eruption of the Hunga Tonga Hungahāpai volcano. The sensors they had placed on the ice surface here recorded pressure waves from this explosion moving through the hidden cavern. The fact that a volcano eruption that occurred thousands of kilometers away affected an underground chamber buried 1,600 feet below the ice in Antarctica is just mind-boggling. This means that almost everything on our planet is connected in one way or another. Number 2. The Singing Glacier. Imagine the surprise of researchers who had set out to observe the ice shift in Antarctica and instead found it singing. It's not a joke. The massive Antarctic ice shelf, named Ross Ice Shelf, is alive with the sound of music. Recently, researchers began analyzing the seismic data from 34 extremely sensitive sensors they had placed under the snowy surface of this glacier. These scientists used these sensors to monitor the motion and vibrations of this ice shelf from 2014 to 2017. But when they began reviewing the readings, it was found that the top layer of snow was continuously vibrating. The active winds whipping over the uneven surface were causing a seismic hum. The ice was humming at a frequency of 5 Hz, but the researchers noticed that the features of this song were altered by events like storms or melting that affected the snow on the surface. The lead study author, Julianne Chaput, a geophysicist and mathematician at Colorado State University, has compared the sound to a constantly blowing flute. They also observed that storms and warming events affecting the shape of snow dunes led to subtle changes in the pitch of this song. Scientists think that monitoring this song of Ross Ice Shelf can help them remotely track surface shifts ahead of time. Using this, the scientists will be able to paint a better picture of the ice shelf stability. They can find out if the shelf is vulnerable and when it might collapse. This song may not be audible to human ears, but it is an exceptional tool we can use to monitor the environment and its effects on the ice shelf. It's amazing how the largest piece of ice in the world is speaking to us. Is it possible that someday we might find a glacier singing songs that humans can also hear? Anything is possible in this frozen, mysterious land. Number 3. Microorganisms that eat wood and oil. There are about 100,000 known species of fungus in the world, but Robert Blanchett, a 58-year-old plant pathologist at the University of Minnesota, discovered 3 new species in a place no one would have imagined. He found these 3 species feasting on historic treasures in Antarctica. The infamous British explorers Ernest Shackleton and Robert Scott had built 3 small huts during their expedition across Antarctica between 1901 and 1915. They were trying to reach the South Pole. These huts are the only remnants of humanity's first attempts to explore and inhabit this icy continent. Inside these huts are artifacts like newspaper clippings, cans of food and clothing Shackleton, Scott and their team left behind. The conservationists noticed that the planks were rotting and wooden crates were covered with black spots. In the 1990s, Robert J. Kosler, the director of the Smithsonian Institution's Museum Conservation Institute, approached Blanchett and requested his assistance. Before this, there was no record of wood-degrading fungi native to Antarctica, as fungi tend to prefer warmer climates. But Blanchett was left baffled when he discovered that the DNA of these 3 fungal species found in the huts was unlike any other temperate species. There was no chance the explorers had brought them to Antarctica, so the 3 huts were being attacked by native species. Researchers are astonished by how tough these fungal species are. How they can thrive in one of the most inhospitable environments in the world is truly a dilemma. While studying these fungi, Blanchett also made another game-changing observation. One of the species native to Antarctica is apparently devouring the petroleum spilt from fuel containers Scott had left behind. This could mean an eco-friendly biological solution for oil spills. Speaking of oil-eating fungi, did you know multiple species of bacteria have also been identified that degrade petroleum products? A team of researchers from the University of Putra, Malaysia, working in coalition with colleagues from the University of Malaya's National Antarctic Research Center, have successfully isolated 2 unique species of bacteria capable of degrading diesel. These strains were discovered on Scott Coast and Ross Island. Though it isn't the first time anyone has found bacterial species that can degrade hydrocarbons here in Antarctica, these 2 species were isolated from pristine soil samples. The researchers have also analyzed the conditions that can maximize their diesel degrading activity. Both strains were quite resilient and able to withstand a wide range of temperatures. Because both bacterial strains are native to Antarctica, they were able to tolerate all kinds of extreme conditions. The discovery of these tough bacterial strains makes us wonder what kind of strong and sturdy creatures remain hidden behind this massive curtain of ice. Maybe humanity can benefit from these undiscovered microorganisms. 4. Allen Hills 84001. Allen Hills 84001 is the name given to a fragment of a Martian meteorite found in a place called Allen Hills, Antarctica. A team of American meteorite hunters from the ANSMET project discovered this meteorite on December 27, 1984. Weighing at 1.93 kilograms, this meteorite originally belongs to the Shergotite-Narklite-Chassignite group that originally came from Mars. The color of the Antarctic terrain makes it easy to spot things that seemingly don't belong here. That's why it's a prime location for meteor hunters looking for rocks that have fallen from outer space. Researchers from the ANSMET team visit Antarctica annually, and so far, they've found some incredible rocks. Allen Hills 84001 is one such rock. ALH 84001 was found by Roberta Score, a lab manager of the Antarctic Meteorite Laboratory at the Johnson Space Center on the Allen Hills far western ice field. Experts believe it's one of the oldest meteorites originating from Mars, and according to them, it's crystallized from molten Martian rock around 4.091 billion years ago. The chemical analysis of this rock provides evidence that during the time of its origin, liquid water was present on the surface of Mars. In September 2005, an analysis of the origin of ALH 84001 was shared using the data obtained from Mars Global Surveyor and the 2001 Mars Odyssey spacecraft. This data indicated that Eos Chasma in the Valley Marineris appears to be the source of this meteorite. Scientists believe that this piece of rock was blasted away from the surface of Mars by the impact of a meteor that hit around 17 million years ago. According to radiometric dating techniques, it was found that ALH 84001 reached planet Earth about 13,000 years ago. This rock from Mars has garnered more attention than any other meteorite having potential biological markings because it's the only meteorite that came from wet Mars. In the year 1996, a group of scientists claimed that they had found evidence in this meteorite indicating that preserved inside this rock were fossils of Martian bacteria. This announcement of potential extraterrestrial life stirred up a heated debate, with many jumping to conclusions that this was true evidence. However, this controversial theory was soon rejected by most of the scientific community. There may not have been Martian life in this meteorite, but it set the precedent for many upcoming breakthroughs in the developing field of astrobiology. And just because this meteorite didn't carry fossilized Martian bacteria, it doesn't mean there aren't more out there that are hiding the alien microorganisms in their core. 5. Blood Falls. This bleeding waterfall pouring from the Taylor Glacier of Antarctica's McMurdo Dry Valley might just be the most intriguing discovery made in this part of the world. It was first spotted in 1911 by Griffith Taylor, an Australian geologist who was also the first one to explore this valley. This deep crimson liquid emerging from the mouth of the Taylor Glacier has stained the ice surrounding it. Initially, scientists attributed the blood-like color of this waterfall to red algae, but later they found out that something else was behind this sinister outpour of blood in the middle of nowhere. Researchers have recently announced that they have figured out the real reason behind the red color of this waterfall. They used radio echo sounding to look at the features lying beneath the glacier. This helped them locate the source of this supersaturated red river. Turns out it takes 1.5 million years to travel through the glacier and sporadically emerge from the tiny fissures in the ice. So what is the source of this water? It's a brine lake full of iron-rich hypersaline water lying under the rock. The size of this subglacial pool is still a mystery, but on the top, it's covered by 400 meters of ice. The water is pushed out from the lake under high pressure and it comes in contact with oxygen close to the surface. The iron in this water gets oxidized by the atmospheric oxygen and turns red. This extraordinary waterfall offers scientists a way to study the subsurface microbial life in the region without having to drill deep into the polar ice cap. McCuckey et al. Explained that this pool was sealed off around 1.5 to 2 million years ago and can be considered a sort of time capsule. It isolated the ancient native microbial population for a very long time, which allowed these organisms to evolve independently. This explains how these microorganisms managed to survive in extreme environments when the Earth was completely frozen. It's only fair to assume many lakes like this one exist under the frozen surface of Antarctica and are home to microorganisms we have no clue about. 6. Weddell Polinia. This eerie hole, the size of Ireland, was first spotted in 1974 near the Antarctic ice. The hole eventually closed 2 years later in 1976. It is called the Weddell Polinia, and to the surprise of scientists around the world, this hole opened again after remaining closed for 40 years. The strange behavior of this hole in the Antarctic has baffled the scientific community. They are still unable to explain this odd phenomenon. According to Kent Moore, a physicist from the University of Toronto, this remarkable hole is located hundreds of kilometers from the ice edge, and nobody would have discovered this anomaly if it weren't for the satellite images. It literally looks like someone punched a hole in the ice. After remaining closed for 4 decades, the hole briefly opened up in 2016, and pretty soon it was gone again. The Weddell Polinia is around 31,000 square miles at its peak. That's twice the size of the Netherlands. While scientists don't know much about what is causing this strange hole to open and close, they are hoping to use it to learn more about climate change. A study led by research scientist Diana Francis from NYU Abu Dhabi has unraveled the mystery of another Polinia. This one is called the Maud Rise Polinia, which was discovered in September 2017 in the center of an ice pack in the Lazarev Sea of Antarctica. Their satellite observations and reanalysis data show that cyclones carrying aggressively strong winds over the ice pack forced the ice to shift in opposite directions. This was what led to the opening of this 9,500 square kilometers large Polinia. Before 2017, the only known Polinia was the Weddell Polinia that was caught on satellite in the 1970s. According to Francis, these polynyas are capable of impacting the climate, and more of these will appear due to global warming. The occurrence of these holes is as scary as it is intriguing. Just imagine how massive holes appearing throughout the surface of an entire continent will impact the balance of our natural system. Not to mention, enormous holes just closing and opening at their own will are just scary. 7. See-through fish. Scientists have discovered multiple species of microbes, crustaceans, and strange alien-looking fish in the buried water bodies of Antarctica. It took years to drill through the Ross Ice Shelf and reach these life forms, and only a decade ago, we thought nothing could survive underneath these massive ice sheets of Antarctica. The newly discovered creatures include many fish species having relatively bigger eyes. This may be because these animals have to live and navigate in darkness. Some of these fish were orange, some were black, but the most striking and largest among these was see-through. You heard it right, explorers have actually discovered a species of fish having completely translucent skin. All the internal organs of this animal are visible through its skin. To say the least, biologists were left awestruck by this discovery. This is the first glimpse of life beneath the ice on the frozen, most difficult terrain in the world that was previously considered a useless chunk of ice and remained ignored by humanity. The Whillans Ice Stream Subglacial Access Research Drilling Project deserves the credit for this discovery. This project is an interdisciplinary collaboration of more than 40 scientists. They used a hot water drill to pierce through 740 meters of ice. Once the hole was drilled, they lowered a remote-controlled submersible to get a visual. These robots send them images and videos of life below the shelf. They're not entirely sure whether the see-through fish is a unique species or not. These translucent fish don't have many companions in the Antarctic waters. In fact, according to Reinhold Hannel, a biologist at the Johann Heinrich von Thunen Institute of Germany, they constitute 91% of the total biomass and 77% of species down there. The pressure and movement created by the ice sheets, paired with the geothermal heat, provide these fish with water that's perpetually -2 degrees Celsius. This indicated that the fish have adapted to their surroundings to survive in extreme conditions. Scientists from the Wizard Project have attributed their evolutionary success to adaptation. They have antifreeze glycoproteins in their bodies that prevent the fluids inside them from freezing in the sub-zero surrounding temperatures. But why are these fish see-through? According to Hannel, this could be due to the evolutionary loss of hemoglobin, the protein that imparts red color to blood. The sight of this fish gliding in the water with all its organs visible to the naked eye is downright fascinating. Number 8. Pyramids. Mainstream geologists are never really willing to consider the possibility of ancient humans settling in Antarctica because its hostile climate can barely support life. But on and off, there have been discoveries that made them reconsider this theory. One of these strange findings is pyramids that look like they were built by humans. This discovery is quite recent. Satellite images captured in 2016 revealed a strange formation peering out from the ice. Some researchers believe these are definitely man-made pyramids. There have been multiple reports of massive pyramids being spotted in Antarctica. Jutting straight out of the ice and snow, they look almost exactly like the ones in Egypt. But in reality, these Antarctic pyramids are much larger than the Great Pyramids of Egypt. It was found that one of these massive pyramids has a perfectly square base, measuring 2 kilometers square in each direction. This incredible revelation raises the suspicion that maybe our ancestors did eventually reach the Antarctic continent at some point in history. Some researchers even suspect that they settled there, but still the presence of a man-made pyramid buried under the heaps of ice and snow is hard to accept. How was such an enormous structure built on the Antarctic ice? When was it built and who made it? According to geologists, Antarctica has been buried under ice for millions of years, but evidence has been found in this desolate frozen land that indicates it might have been free of ice in particular areas until about 4000 BC. Many stories from Polynesia tell us about people who managed to reach the Antarctic continent. All of these stories were compiled by a French academic named Argaud. This book was titled Out of Antarctica. These stories describe a mystical land with white rocks jutting out of the water, which are probably icebergs and many other creatures like penguins. The land these stories described is quite similar to what we now know as Antarctica. The Polynesian people believe that this is the place where our ancestors originally came from. The British Antarctic expedition that discovered this pyramid was shocked by its perfect appearance and decided to call it the Pyramid. It is situated in the 400 kilometers long Ellsworth mountain range. Geologists have revealed that the pyramid, in reality, is the peak of this mountain range. Experts have rejected the conspiracy theories proposing that this pyramid is evidence of life existing in Antarctica before it was wiped out by ice. According to them, pyramids are not uncommon in nature. But are we 100% sure that humans never inhabited this hostile continent? Not really. It's just that scientists would rather label something a natural anomaly instead of considering the scariest possibilities. 9. 2 centuries old bones. In 1985, a weird-looking skull was found lying on Yamanar Beach at Cape Sheref of Antarctica's South Shetland Island. It was discovered close to remnants of a femur bone at a beach camp made by sealers in the early 19th century. Both these bones belonged to an indigenous woman from Chile. She was in her early 20s at the time of her death. According to experts, she died between 1819 and 1825. These bones are the oldest known human remains we've found in Antarctica so far. This means she was among the earliest explorers who landed in this uninhabitable part of our planet. Strangely, she was found at a sealers' camp, as during the time she was alive, female sealers were unheard of. There are no documents that could provide us with any information as to why and how a young woman from Chile was in Antarctica. The age of this 200-year-old skull aligns with the beginning of human landings on this continent. This skull is a game-changing archaeological discovery. In about 30 to 35 years, such bones will become the basis of territorial claims for this unadulterated icy continent. Many nations around the world are secretly preparing to claim these snowy dunes and frozen plains as their property. What people consider frozen waste might become the reason for future wars. The Antarctic Treaty System, signed in 1959, has given Antarctica the status of a natural reserve devoted to peace and science. This prohibits all activities relating to the mineral resources of the continent, but the protocol allows this clause of the treaty to come under review in 2048. There's a chance the ban on mining and resource extraction could get overturned. So far, 7 countries have laid claims on the Antarctic land. These include Argentina, Chile, France, New Zealand, Norway, and the UK. The skull of the Chilean woman may not bear much legal weight, but if Chile can prove their people started living in Antarctica long before the others, they might hold a stronger hand in negotiations. It's crazy how 200-year-old bones become a political tool for claiming ownership of the frozen continent. Number 10. Mysterious ice holes. Initially observed by a Swedish explorer traveling on Greenland's ice cap in the year 1870, they're called cryosonite holes. Their names come from cryo, which means ice, and conite, which means dust. These water-filled cylindrical holes often appear on the surface of glaciers. There are deposits of dark-colored sediments at the bottom of these holes. Above these sediments, the holes contain meltwater. Tiny rock particles, soot, and microbes combine to form cryosonite. This is deposited on snow glaciers and ice caps. The buildup of this leads to the formation of the holes. Cryosonite could also contain dust from continental deserts or farmland located thousands of miles away. Particles from power plant emissions and volcanic eruptions somehow also make their way to Antarctica and deposit in these holes. These dark materials tend to absorb heat from sunlight, thereby causing the ice beneath them to melt. This in turn leads to the formation of the long cylindrical holes. The cryosonite sinks into these holes, creating a black inner layer at the bottom as it continues to melt further down into the ice. During the summer season, these holes are filled with water, which provides the perfect conditions for cold-adapted microorganisms and tiny animals who thrive in this microhabitat. It's incredible how nature is finding creative ways to support life in the Antarctic region. No wonder the scientific community is afraid of the strange natural patterns and practices of Antarctica. Seems like this continent has a mind of its own. Number 11. Monstrous worms. Found in the waters of Antarctica, this 8-inch long worm has an oval body ringed with gold bristles that shine. With its sharp-toothed maw, it looks like a Christmas ornament if Christmas decorations were made in the deepest pits of hell. This extraordinary creature is called Eulogisca gigantea. Photos of this mini monster have been trending online and quite frankly scaring the masses, though it usually inhabits the Southern Ocean water near Antarctica. Belonging to a class of marine polychaetes, they're often called bristle worms. These worms use their bristles for swimming, crawling on the ocean floor, and even defending themselves against predators. There's very little information available regarding the behavior and biological features of this strange worm. It was first discovered in 1939. What appears to be the head of E. gigantea is actually a retractable proboscis that extends outwards to a length of about 2 inches when the worm is feeding. The worm often turns this proboscis inside out and folds up into its body. The sharp teeth of this Antarctic scale worm indicate that it either preys on other small animals or scavenged on their remains. A photo circulating on Facebook shows a specimen with its jaw extruded. This was spotted in the Antarctic Ocean at depths of 520 to 670 meters. The bodies of these worms are covered by scales called elytra that serve as armor and camouflaging equipment. Similar in size to a rat or a squirrel, the bristle worms play a vital role in the ocean's ecosystem like any other worm species. Cock shrimp are the biggest predator of this alien-looking worm, living in the depths of the ocean. Worms are pretty resilient creatures distributed across a wide variety of habitats around the world. They can survive in all kinds of extreme environments, including hydrothermal vents to sub-zero temperatures of the Antarctic waters. The truth is that climate change is causing the Antarctic ice to melt at a much faster rate than before, and this melting ice sheet is unraveling the bewildering secrets of this isolated continent on a daily basis. Scientists believe that currently we've only scratched the surface of this 1.9 kilometers thick ice sheet, and there are incredible ecosystems and archaeological treasures buried under the snow we have yet to discover. The possibility of ancient human settlements, the apprehension of future exploration, and evidence of life forms alien to the modern world are keeping the scientists up at night. What more is out there? Was this place home to humans at some point in history? Will it become habitable in the coming centuries? No one can say for sure. What do you think of these terrifying things being discovered in Antarctica? Tell us in the comments section below.